Imagine standing before a prayer so powerful that, in its few words, it could reveal a direct path to connection with the divine. Many know the Our Father as a simple and universal prayer, but few may suspect that it could contain a mystical code, a secret formula for accessing spiritual power and protection. After all, why did Jesus, who had so many words of wisdom, choose this specific prayer to teach his followers? And even more intriguing, why does this prayer, among so many, remain alive and vibrant to this day? Historically, the Lord's Prayer emerges as a response from Jesus to his disciples' request, "Teach us to pray." He did not offer a list of rules or complex rituals, but rather a direct and engaging prayer. And over the centuries, scholars, mystics, and thinkers from all beliefs have tried to understand the depths of this prayer, seeking to decipher its hidden meanings. Many believe that it is not just a sequence of sentences, but a kind of key. The question that arises is, a key to what? To explore this possibility, we need to see the Our Father from a new perspective, a spiritual lens that goes beyond words and enters the realm of intention and symbolism. Ancient spirituality often attributed power to words, as if each syllable were a channel to the divine. In various traditions, prayers, chants, and mantras are seen as pathways to the sacred, and Jesus, in sharing this prayer, seems to have offered something deeper than it initially appears. Could each phrase of the Our Father have been designed to align the one who prays with a higher spiritual frequency? The first line, "Our Father who art in heaven," already puts us in a state of contemplation. It evokes the idea that the divine is above us, but at the same time, it uses the word "our," including everyone in a single unity. It's not about a my or your Father, but an Our Father, uniting humanity and spirituality. With this start, we are invited to break away from the vision of separation, recognizing that the divine is accessible to all, not as a distant figure, but as a presence that unites us in a single purpose. This concept of Father carries within it an archetypal representation of protection, wisdom, and unconditional love. Jesus could have used any other title to describe God, but he chose Father. This leads us to reflect on the purpose of this choice. What does it mean to see the divine as a paternal figure? Perhaps it is an invitation for us to cultivate a relationship of trust, surrender, and security. In the ancient world, the father was seen as the provider and protector, someone who guided his family. By invoking this image, the prayer invites us to feel this kind of divine security and support. But there is more to this sentence than a call for unity and trust. When we affirm that God is in the heavens, we are reminding ourselves of transcendence and mystery. This expression points us upwards, to the subtle, and at the same time invites us to expand our own perception of reality. The divine in the heavens is not confined to physical space. It is in a spiritual dimension that transcends the material world. It's almost as if this opening line were an instruction. When beginning the prayer, elevate your consciousness, go beyond earthly concerns. Upon reflecting on the impact of this introduction, it becomes clear that it prepares the one who prays for a state of reverence. We are no longer in the ordinary world. Through words, we are transporting our mind and heart to a place of connection. This opening creates a sacred atmosphere, a portal between the everyday and the divine, where prayer becomes more than just a recitation of words, turning into an encounter with something beyond ourselves. And it's precisely this transformation that is often lacking when we recite the prayer mechanically. What if, when saying each word of the Lord's Prayer, we truly felt what we are saying? This is the secret of many spiritual practices: intention. And by saying, "Our Father who art in heaven," with the intention of deeply connecting, we create a link with the divine, a real bond that can touch and transform our lives. So there is a duality in this initial phrase. It reminds us of our unity with the whole, and at the same time, it elevates us upwards towards the transcendent. Jesus seems to have understood that to truly connect with the spiritual, it is necessary to balance these two aspects, unity and elevation. We are called to feel the divine as part of us, and at the same time, to seek this spiritual dimension that transcends us. Our Father who art in heaven. This phrase led us to a state of upliftment and unity, but what follows is even deeper. The next line invites us to a new layer of reflection and reverence. Hallowed be thy name. At first glance, it may seem like a simple statement of respect, but this sentence has a depth that, when explored, reveals a new level of connection with the sacred. In ancient mysticism, the name of an entity or spiritual force carried a specific power, an essence. The ancients believed that saying the name of a spiritual entity was not just calling it, but directly accessing a part of its energy. Therefore, when we say, "Hallowed be thy name," we are actually calling and acknowledging the power and sanctity that God's name carries. This acknowledgement is not just an act of respect, but an invitation for this sacred energy to manifest in our lives. Reflecting on the term sanctified, we realize that it implies an act of purification, a raising of the ordinary to the sacred. To make something holy is to elevate it, to remove any impurity and bring out its best. In this sense, by sanctifying the name of God, we are also sanctifying ourselves, purifying our heart and mind so that we can receive and understand this divine presence more clearly. Thus, prayer is not just a request for something to be done externally. It transforms us internally. This sentence serves as a kind of frequency adjustment. By repeating, "Hallowed be thy name," we are placing ourselves in a state of consciousness where purity and clear intention become central. It's as if we're preparing ourselves, clearing any negative energy or mental distraction so that we can be ready for the connection with the divine. This mental and spiritual purification creates the necessary internal environment to access what comes next in the prayer. But what exactly does it mean to sanctify the name of God? In various spiritual traditions, giving a title to the divine implies limiting it, since God is beyond any name or definition. However, Jesus chooses this word, name, to connect us in a more direct and personal way. When we sanctify the name of God, we are sanctifying all aspects of life where this presence manifests itself. We recognize the divine in every experience, in every action, and in every thought, seeing life as an expression of this sacred name. At this point, prayer becomes more than just an act of asking. It becomes a form of praise and contemplation. This recognition of holiness puts us in a state of humility. It's a reminder that no matter how much we try to control our lives, there is a greater force that guides and sustains us. And by sanctifying the name, we are affirming that we are ready to let go of our judgments and let this higher wisdom take command. It's fascinating to realize that sanctify is not just a word of devotion, but a practice of focus and respect. By affirming that God's name is holy, we are re-educating ourselves to view life with a deeper and more respectful gaze. Every situation, every person, every challenge starts to be seen as something that carries a spark of the sacred. This practice changes our perception of the world and puts us in a constant state of gratitude and presence. This passage also carries a great lesson about the importance of cultivating a personal and direct relationship with the divine. By saying, "Hallowed be thy name," we are committing to honor this presence in our lives. We are adopting an attitude of reverence that goes beyond prayer, becoming a daily practice. In every gesture, in every word, we are sanctifying the world around us and paving the way for the divine to reveal itself in our daily journey. But there is still one aspect that needs to be highlighted. Sanctifying the name is also a form of protection. By placing the divine in a space of honor, we protect our own mind and heart from distractions and negative influences. We become aware of what is important and learn to filter out what distracts us from this connection. In other words, sanctifying God's name is also protecting our own soul, our own essence, keeping us aligned with what truly matters. In this way, Hallowed be thy name teaches us about the importance of purity of intention. When we honor this intention, everything we do becomes an extension of this sanctity. This practice helps us find peace amidst chaos, feel secure amidst uncertainties, and access a source of strength that goes beyond any human power. Every time we recite these words, we are invited to reflect on the essence of life and the way we perceive the divine in our existence. They help us to set aside the superficial, reminding us that what really matters is the quality of our connection with the Source. Sanctification is not an isolated act. It is a continuous state, an invitation for us to live in harmony with the greatness and mystery that permeate the universe. At the end of this line, a new question arises. As we continue in prayer, how can we bring the divine closer to our reality, allowing him to manifest in our everyday lives? So far, the Lord's Prayer has shown us that, to connect with the divine, we need an open, reverent, and purified heart. And then, the next phrase delves even deeper into this relationship. Thy kingdom come. These words may sound simple, but they carry a powerful message about the desire to bring the divine essence closer to our lives. What does it mean, after all, to ask for the kingdom to come to us? What kingdom is this? And why does Jesus place it at the center of his prayer? For Jesus' listeners, the kingdom of God was a grand promise, something awaited with hope and expectation. Many interpreted the kingdom as a future reality, a perfect place where suffering and injustice would no longer exist. However, Jesus seemed to convey a much broader and deeper vision of this concept. When teaching the Lord's Prayer, he suggests that the kingdom is not just a distant destination, but a present possibility, something we can experience here and now. This request for the kingdom to come to us indicates that we can begin to manifest this divine reality in our everyday lives. This idea of bringing the kingdom into our life partly implies a shift in mindset. By asking for the arrival of the kingdom, we are asking for our consciousness to expand to embrace values and principles that transcend ego and materialism. This is an invitation to set aside the limitations and fears that often govern our mind and heart, allowing something larger and purer to guide our actions and decisions. The kingdom, in this sense, is a state of being, a spiritual frequency where peace, compassion, and love reign. Reflecting on this line also leads us to think about each person's role in building a better world. When we ask for the kingdom to come, we are not just waiting for divine intervention, but committing ourselves to act in accordance with these elevated values. The kingdom of God, then, comes to be seen as a partnership between the divine and humanity. Jesus invites us to be active participants in this transformation, making our lives an expression of the ideals of the kingdom. And what would our life be like if we could truly manifest this kingdom in every gesture? In wishing for the kingdom to become present, we are also acknowledging that the divine essence already dwells within us, ready to be awakened. Over the centuries, many spiritual masters have spoken about the human potential to reach a state of enlightenment, where love and compassion become the basis of all actions. This state of fulfillment is, in essence, the kingdom to which Jesus referred. In a world full of conflicts, suffering, and illusions, this phrase is a powerful reminder that there is a higher reality within our reach. Asking for the kingdom is a way of affirming our faith in the possibility of transformation, both personal and collective. It's like planting a seed of hope, a vision of a world where good and harmony prevail. And, for this kingdom to manifest, it is necessary that each of us cultivates it within ourselves. When we say, "Thy kingdom come," we are also asking for the strength to let go of our selfish and temporary desires, allowing the divine will to take precedence. For many, this is a difficult practice, as it requires giving up control and trusting that there is a greater purpose that, although invisible, is always working for good. This surrender is an act of courage and faith, where we put our ambitions aside and devote ourselves to a higher ideal. This request for the coming of the kingdom invites us to a true internal transformation. It calls us to question what we are cultivating in our hearts and what we are manifesting in our lives. Are we building this kingdom of love and compassion, or are we living in patterns of selfishness and separation? Each time we ask for the kingdom to manifest, we are reminded that it is already within us, waiting to be recognized and expressed. The interesting thing is that this sentence can also be seen as a request for spiritual protection and security. By desiring the kingdom of God, we are asserting our trust in a reality where love is the foundation of everything, a place where the soul is safe and at peace. This kingdom is our true dwelling, a space where we are free from the limitations and worries of the material world. This connection with the divine strengthens us, protects us, and gives us serenity amidst adversities. Another perspective of this sentence is that it teaches us to live with purpose and to seek a meaningful life. The kingdom of God is not a physical place, but a state of consciousness where each action has a spiritual value. When we strive to bring this kingdom into our daily lives, we start to act with more authenticity and presence, contributing to a more harmonious world. This practice transforms our life into a path of light and elevation. And finally, by asking for the kingdom to come to us, we are also declaring that we believe in a better future. This request is an expression of our faith in the possibility of a more just, loving, and balanced world. Jesus, in teaching this prayer, seems to have understood the need to give hope to humanity, showing that transformation is possible and that the kingdom of God is closer than we imagine. At the end of this line, the question remains: if the kingdom of God is within our reach, what do we need to do to align ourselves with this reality and allow it to flourish in our lives and in the world? Each line of the Lord's Prayer takes us deeper into a process of transformation and connection with the divine. The next line, "Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven," is perhaps one of the most challenging and at the same time most liberating. By pronouncing it, we are invited to completely surrender, relinquishing control of our lives to a higher power. And this surrender, for many, is the key that unlocks a profound level of peace and spiritual confidence. But what does it really mean to let the divine will prevail? Since ancient times, the desire for control has been one of the greatest sources of anxiety and suffering for human beings. We seek security, predictability, and try to control our future, often forgetting that there are forces beyond our understanding. By saying, "Thy will be done," we affirm that we are willing to let go of fear and control, acknowledging that there is a greater purpose guiding everything. This sentence is an invitation for us to free ourselves from the shackles of the ego. The ego, with its wants and desires, tends to believe it knows what is best, but often acts based on illusions and fears. When we ask for the divine will to manifest, we are dissolving the ego's barriers and allowing a higher wisdom to take charge. This is an act of trust and surrender, where we acknowledge that the divine knows what is best for our lives and for the world. The idea that God's will should be done on earth as in heaven also leads us to reflect on the union between the spiritual and the material. Earth symbolizes our physical world, with all its limitations and challenges, while heaven represents the spiritual realm, the place where divine will is absolute and unchangeable. By uniting these two dimensions, we are asking for this heavenly harmony to be reflected in our material reality, bringing peace, balance, and order to our lives. This union between earth and heaven is, in a way, a reminder that the divine is not distant, but is present in all aspects of our existence. The divine will can manifest in small moments of everyday life, from interactions with others to the decisions we make on our personal journeys. When we allow this will to reveal itself, we realize that our life begins to flow with more lightness and purpose, as we are aligned with something greater. Reflecting on this line, we realize that it carries a profound teaching about acceptance. Many moments of pain and suffering arise from the resistance we create against circumstances. We want life to happen according to our desires, and when this does not occur, we feel frustrated and powerless. However, by saying, "Thy will be done," we are choosing to accept reality with serenity, trusting that everything is happening according to a greater plan, even if we cannot fully understand it. This acceptance is not an act of passivity, but of profound wisdom. It allows us to act with clarity and focus without being dominated by expectations and anxieties. When we surrender to the divine will, we free ourselves from unnecessary worries and begin to live the present more intensely and authentically. This trust in the divine is a source of strength, enabling us to navigate challenges with a calm mind and a heart full of peace. On the other hand, this surrender also invites us to reassess our own desires and intentions. Is what we desire truly in harmony with our soul? Are we seeking that which brings us closer to our greater purpose? By asking for the divine will to be done, we are opening ourselves to recognize and abandon the desires that take us away from our true path. This is a practice of self-awareness, where we become conscious of what truly matters. The sentence also teaches us about humility. Often we believe we know what's best for us in the world, but the truth is our understanding is limited. There is a wisdom that is beyond our ability to comprehend, and by surrendering to it, we allow this force to work in our favor. This is an act of profound humility, where we acknowledge that we are just a part of something much larger, and that the divine knows what is best. This humility translates into a new way of living, where we begin to act with more empathy and less judgment. By trusting in divine will, we learn to accept others and the reality around us with less criticism and more understanding. This helps us to create healthier relationships and contribute to a more harmonious world, where each one strives to live according to the values of love and compassion. Furthermore, by asking for God's will to be done, we are also protecting ourselves from negative energies and influences. When we align our lives with the divine, we place ourselves in a field of spiritual protection, where adversities lose the power to deeply affect us. This surrender is, in itself, a form of shielding, as those who live in harmony with God's will find serenity, regardless of external circumstances. And finally, this sentence reminds us of the fleeting nature of our desires and the importance of aligning ourselves with what is eternal. Human wishes are often volatile and conditioned by the moment, but the divine will is constant and unchanging. In seeking this connection with the eternal, we find a sense of peace and purpose that nothing in this world can offer. This is the true meaning of "Thy will be done," where we leave the temporary and connect with what is enduring and true. So the question that arises is, are we truly ready to give up our own desires and let the divine will guide our lives? We then proceed to a phrase from the Lord's Prayer that carries an essential message about trust in divine care. Give us this day our daily bread. At first glance, these words seem simple, a request for food and provision. However, upon examining them more deeply, we realize that this line holds a wealth of meanings, ranging from trust in divine abundance to detachment and appreciation of the present. Asking for our daily bread puts us in a posture of trust. In a world where fear of scarcity often dominates, this passage reminds us that the divine is an inexhaustible source, providing us with everything we need. We're not asking for wealth or excess, but simply for the essentials for our sustenance. It's a reminder that spiritual and material abundance is not something to be hoarded, but something that flows continuously to those who trust and remain connected to the source. This trust is a practice of detachment, for by asking only for today's bread, we are renouncing anxiety about the future. Jesus, in many of his speeches, warned about the danger of being obsessed with tomorrow. He encouraged his followers to live in the present, appreciating each moment and trusting that what is necessary for the next day will be provided. This phrase, then, is an invitation for us to learn to cultivate this trust and detachment, recognizing that the universe takes care of us when we open ourselves to receive. But beyond the literal meaning of physical sustenance, the daily bread also symbolizes spiritual nourishment, that which feeds our soul. Many spiritual traditions speak about the importance of seeking not only material sustenance, but also nourishment for the spirit. And by asking for this bread daily, we are acknowledging that our connection with the divine needs to be constant. Just like our body needs sustenance, our soul also requires moments of peace, reflection, and spirituality to remain balanced and fulfilled. This sentence also teaches us about the importance of gratitude. By asking for what we need for the day, we are affirming that what we receive is enough. In a world of excess and relentless pursuit for more, this request is a way to remind us that true satisfaction is not in accumulation, but in appreciating what we have. This daily recognition helps us maintain a humble and thankful heart, making room for true abundance in our lives. There is, moreover, a lesson about simplicity and moderation. The request for our daily bread shows us that we don't need much to be happy, and that the essentials for a fulfilled life are within everyone's reach. This simplicity frees us from the illusions of materialism and allows us to see the value in the simplest things. By living with less and focusing on what truly matters, we can find lasting satisfaction, which goes beyond material goods. As we reflect on the request for our daily bread, we realize that it calls us to align ourselves with the natural flow of life, where everything comes at the right time and in the right measure. This harmony with life's rhythm helps us understand that there is a time for everything, and that what we need will come when it is necessary. This acceptance brings us serenity and helps us to cultivate a calm mind, free from the incessant desires that often steer us away from inner peace. Another interpretation of this phrase leads us to see the bread as the knowledge and wisdom we need to face each day. Often we encounter challenges and difficulties that seem insurmountable. By asking for this daily sustenance, we are also asking for discernment, strength, and clarity to handle each situation. This spiritual bread is the wisdom that guides us, the strength that supports us, and the light that illuminates us in moments of darkness. This daily practice of asking for bread also helps us to develop a sense of community and solidarity. When we say our bread, we acknowledge that this sustenance is not just for us, but for everyone. It is an affirmation that everyone deserves to have their needs met, and that we are all responsible for each other. This vision of unity invites us to act with compassion and contribute to a world where everyone can live with dignity and abundance. Furthermore, this sentence is an affirmation of our dignity as spiritual beings. By asking for our daily bread, we are asserting that we are deserving of divine care and love. We are not asking as beggars, but as children of God, confident that the universe will provide what we need. This confidence strengthens our faith and makes us walk through life with more security and purpose. Finally, the daily bread reminds us of the fleeting nature of life and the importance of valuing the present moment. By focusing on what we need for today, we are cultivating a more mindful mind, living in the here and now. This presence helps us to appreciate the beauty and richness of each moment, recognizing that the true value of life lies in simple moments and in connection with the divine. And so we arrive at a profound question. When asking for this daily sustenance, are we truly ready to live in the present, detached from future worries and confident in divine care? After asking for essential sustenance and embracing simplicity, the next line of the Lord's Prayer touches on an even deeper and transformative theme. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Here we enter the territory of healing and spiritual liberation, where forgiveness emerges as one of the most powerful practices to free ourselves from burdens we carry in our soul. After all, why did Jesus place forgiveness as a central element in this prayer? What is the real importance of forgiving for our spiritual evolution? Let's start with acknowledging our own shortcomings. By asking God to forgive our offenses, we are admitting that we are imperfect, that we make mistakes, and that often these mistakes cause pain to ourselves and others. This act of acknowledging our faults is an act of humility, where we set aside pride and accept our human condition. This acknowledgement opens the heart, making us receptive to grace and divine love, which is always ready to welcome us, regardless of our faults. However, the forgiveness we ask for is not one-sided. Jesus sets an essential condition. We will be forgiven to the same extent that we forgive those who have offended us. This is one of the most challenging principles of the Lord's Prayer, as it requires us to confront resentment, grudges, and hurts accumulated over a lifetime. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not just a blessing received, but also an active commitment we make towards others. The process of forgiving those who have wronged us is often difficult, but it is also a profound source of healing. Resentment and hurt are like weights we carry in our hearts, consuming our energy and limiting our ability to fully live. By holding on to these emotions, we keep the wounds of the past alive, which become obstacles in our spiritual path. When we forgive, we are actually freeing ourselves from these burdens, creating a space within us for love and peace to flourish. Furthermore, forgiveness helps us cultivate compassion. By recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and carries their own burdens, we begin to see others with more understanding. Often, those who have hurt us were acting out of their own wounds and limitations. When we can see the humanity in others, the act of forgiving becomes easier, as we understand that we are all on a journey of learning and growth. Forgiveness also directly connects us with unconditional love, one of the pillars of Jesus' teachings. When we forgive, we are practicing this love without conditions, a love that doesn't depend on receiving something in return. This love is one of the purest expressions of the divine, and by cultivating it, we come closer and closer to our spiritual essence. It's as if, by forgiving, we are tuning our soul to the frequency of the divine, allowing the light of love and peace to fill our being. Another important aspect of this line from the Lord's Prayer is the idea of reciprocity. By saying that we forgive just as we want to be forgiven, we are affirming that there is a direct relationship between what we offer and what we receive. This principle of reciprocity is a spiritual law present in many traditions. What we sow, we reap. When we offer forgiveness, we are creating an energy field that attracts forgiveness and mercy into our lives. The act of forgiving also helps us to let go of the past. Often what prevents us from fully living in the present are the traumas and resentments of the past. When we forgive, we are closing cycles, leaving behind what no longer serves us. This closure is essential for our evolution, as it allows us to walk through life with lightness and openness to new experiences. Forgiveness, in this sense, is a key to inner freedom. In addition to healing the past, forgiveness prepares us to face the future with greater serenity. When we are at peace with ourselves and others, we start to live with less fear and more confidence. This inner peace is a source of strength that helps us face challenges and overcome adversities. By practicing forgiveness, we are strengthening our soul, preparing it for life's difficulties with a light and resilient heart. Forgiving also puts us in tune with divine compassion. When we ask God to forgive our offenses, we are acknowledging that we need this mercy in our life. And, by offering forgiveness to others, we are becoming instruments of that same mercy. This is a cycle of love and grace, where, upon receiving, we start to offer, and by offering, we open ourselves to receive even more. The practice of forgiveness is also a path to self-awareness. When we forgive, we are forced to confront our own emotions, acknowledge our vulnerabilities, and question the expectations we had of others. This process teaches us to be kinder and more patient, both with ourselves and others, and helps us understand that everyone's journey is unique and full of challenges. Finally, forgiveness is a form of spiritual protection. When we forgive, we remove the negative energies surrounding us, creating an aura of peace and serenity. This field of peace protects us from external influences and keeps us connected to the divine light. By practicing forgiveness, we become immune to offenses and criticisms, as we learn to see beyond appearances and recognize the divine in all situations. And so, as we reflect on this line from the Lord's Prayer, an essential question arises: are we truly ready to forgive and let go of everything that ties us to the past, allowing peace and love to flow freely in our life? After asking for forgiveness and freeing ourselves from the ties of the past, the Lord's Prayer guides us to a phrase that addresses a deeply spiritual and universal theme. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This passage evokes the idea of protection and preservation, drawing our attention to the forces and influences that can divert us from our spiritual path. Here, Jesus not only acknowledges the existence of spiritual obstacles, but also teaches us to seek help to overcome these trials. And lead us not into temptation suggests that in the course of our lives, we will inevitably be confronted with situations that test our inner strength and faith. Temptation, in this context, can be interpreted in many ways. It refers not only to ego-driven impulses or desires that pull us away from our essence, but also to illusions that bind us to the material world and suffering. Jesus, by including this phrase in the prayer, warns us about the need to maintain vigilance and self-control, so that we are not dominated by forces that cloud our spiritual clarity. The word temptation is often seen as an allusion to the negative desires and impulses that arise in our minds, such as greed, anger, and pride. These feelings distance us from our true nature and lead us to act in selfish and destructive ways. By asking God to help us resist temptation, we are affirming our intention to live with integrity and harmony, recognizing that, on our own, we may not have the strength to overcome these impulses. It is an act of humility, where we admit that we need divine support and guidance to stay on the right path. But temptation can manifest itself in more subtle ways, such as doubt, fear, and the attachment to control. When we ask not to fall into temptation, we are also asking for strength to overcome these internal shadows that often block our spiritual evolution. These fears and doubts are barriers that prevent us from fully trusting in life and the divine purpose. This prayer is, therefore, a request for us to see beyond these illusions and connect with the truth that is beyond our fears. In asking to be delivered from evil, we touch on a spiritual dimension that recognizes the existence of negative energies and influences. These forces can manifest both internally and externally, influencing our minds and our actions. Jesus teaches us that we can seek divine protection to keep us away from these influences, whether through people, situations, or thoughts that bring darkness into our lives. This request is a way to create a barrier of light around us, keeping our soul safe and at peace. This passage from the Lord's Prayer reminds us that the spiritual life is a journey requiring vigilance and discernment. We live in a world full of distractions and illusions, where it's easy to lose oneself and be swept away by appearances. Evil, in this sense, can be understood as all that draws us away from our divine essence and binds us to suffering and ignorance. By asking to be delivered from evil, we are expressing our desire to remain aligned with the light, to live according to high spiritual values, and to avoid anything that might divert us from this purpose. This line also teaches us about the importance of self-awareness. Often, temptation and evil subtly infiltrate our lives, and we only manage to perceive them when we are alert and in tune with our inner selves. By asking for help to avoid falling into temptation, we are committing to observing our thoughts, emotions, and actions more carefully, identifying the moments when we are influenced by negative forces. This request is therefore a practice of self-knowledge, where we acknowledge the importance of maintaining a clear mind and a pure heart. Furthermore, this request for protection and vigilance reminds us of the importance of cultivating a balanced mind. When our mind is at peace and in harmony, it is harder for us to be influenced by negative thoughts and energies. However, when we are out of balance, we become more vulnerable to external influences. This line from the Lord's Prayer is therefore an invitation for us to cultivate a life of peace and serenity, where evil finds no room to manifest. When asking not to fall into temptation and to be free from evil, we are also expressing our faith in the power of light and goodness. This sentence helps us remember that, regardless of the difficulties we face, there is always a higher force that protects and guides us. This trust gives us courage to face life's challenges with serenity, knowing that, ultimately, light always overcomes darkness. This prayer for divine protection is also a practice of humility. We acknowledge that, as much as we wish to follow the path of goodness, we are vulnerable and prone to mistakes. This acceptance of our humanity helps us to maintain a posture of humility and reminds us that, to stay on the spiritual path, we need the help and love of the divine. Finally, this passage teaches us about the importance of maintaining a pure heart and a clear mind. When we ask to be freed from evil, we are expressing our desire to live a life of integrity and honesty, where our actions are in harmony with our spiritual values. This intention protects us from acting impulsively or selfishly, keeping us connected with the divine light. Thus, upon completing this line of the Lord's Prayer, an essential reflection arises. Are we truly ready to live a life of vigilance, self-awareness, and spiritual protection, committed to avoiding what distances us from our divine essence? Upon reaching the end of the Our Father, we realize that each line of this prayer has led us on a journey of self-discovery, trust, and spiritual elevation. Each sentence revealed a key to accessing divine power and inner peace, providing a framework that, if well understood, can transform our lives. And now, as we conclude this reflection, we are invited to look at the Our Father as a whole, to see how each segment connects into a cohesive message of connection with the divine and spiritual transformation. As we begin with Our Father who art in heaven, we are reminded of our divine origin and that our true essence is spiritual. This beginning places us in a posture of humility and reverence, recognizing that there is a greater force guiding us and uniting us as humanity. This recognition is fundamental for our journey, as it helps us understand that we are not alone and that the divine is always present, supporting us at every step. When we say, "Hallowed be thy name," we are affirming our commitment to honor this presence in our life. It's a reminder that spirituality is not something distant, but a daily practice, a way of seeing and acting in the world with respect and intention. By sanctifying God's name, we purify our mind and our heart, creating a space within us where the sacred can fully manifest. Thy kingdom come leads us to a profound desire for transformation, both internally and externally. This phrase inspires us to live in alignment with spiritual values, creating a reality where love, compassion, and peace are the foundations. Asking for the kingdom is, in fact, a commitment to a life of purpose, where we strive to manifest the divine in every action, every word, and every thought. Next, Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, teaches us about surrender and trust. It's a call for us to let go of control and accept that there is a greater purpose guiding our lives. This surrender is liberating, as it allows us to live with more lightness, knowing that everything happens according to the divine will, which always aims for our good. Give us this day our daily bread teaches us about simplicity, trust, and gratitude. By asking only for what we need today, we learn to value the present and trust that the universe will always provide enough. This phrase reminds us that true abundance comes from a life in harmony with the natural flow, where we receive exactly what we need for our growth. Forgive our offenses, just as we forgive those who have offended us, leads us down the path of healing and unconditional love. Forgiveness frees us from the past and opens up space for us to live with more lightness and peace. By forgiving, we are connecting with divine love and creating a cycle of grace and compassion that benefits everyone around us. And so, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, teaches us about the importance of vigilance and spiritual protection. We are reminded that, to follow the path of light, we need to be aware of the influences around us, keeping our mind and heart always clean and protected. This phrase is a plea for strength and discernment, so that we can resist illusions and remain steadfast in our pursuit of the divine. When reciting the Our Father, with this understanding, the prayer becomes a profound experience of transformation. It ceases to be just a set of words and becomes a path, a practice that helps us raise our consciousness and get closer to our true essence. Jesus, in sharing this prayer, offered us a tool to navigate life's difficulties with serenity and to find peace amidst chaos. This code of the Lord's Prayer is, therefore, a formula that teaches us to access divine power in a conscious and intentional way. Each line invites us to reflect on a part of our spiritual journey, from recognizing our connection with the divine to the practice of forgiveness, trust, and vigilance. When we practice these principles, we find not only peace and harmony, but also an inner strength that guides and protects us. This prayer, then, is more than a supplication. It is a manual for spiritual life. It reminds us that we are children of the divine, that we have the power to create a more loving reality, and that we can live in peace, regardless of external circumstances. The Our Father is a constant reminder that, by connecting with the divine, we find everything we need to live with purpose and fulfillment. As we conclude this reflection, a final question arises that serves as a meditation for our life. Are we prepared to integrate this code into our daily lives, allowing the Our Father to become a living and transformative practice in our spiritual journey? And now, Mind Unfettered, it's your turn. What did you think of this dive into the Lord's Prayer? Have you ever thought of this prayer as a mystical code? Leave here in the comments which phrase of this prayer resonated with you the most and why. Share your vision, and who knows, with the power of collective manifestation, we may access new dimensions of this profound practice. And don't leave now. In our next video, we will delve into another enigmatic figure of Christianity, the hidden truth about Mary Magdalene. Was she Jesus' closest disciple? Click on the screen and come discover the fascinating story and unknown truths about Mary Magdalene and her spiritual role alongside Jesus.